Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasurasena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Dhiramarjanado Shri Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Kridvaiva trupti vajata shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Shri Radhikama Dabayarapara Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Namna Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Namna Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Ne kunja yuno ratikeli sidhyai Jayali ver juktir apekshaniya Ne kunja yuno ratikeli sidhyai Tatrati daksha ativalavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Ativalabhasya Sakshadharitena Samasta Shashri Pruktastatthava Vyataiva Sadhavi Sakshadhari Shashri Pruktastatthava Kintu Prabharja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Kintu Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gurashi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasadam Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasadam Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yayam Stovam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Yayam Stovam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatya Deshatarine Sarasvate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachata Deshata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Nityananda Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hariyaraye Namah Krishna Jadavaye Namah Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Krishna Nityananda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Pramanande Haribo Jai Vishwapar Paramahansa Prabhajikacharya Ashtuttara Sarasishya Maharaj Divine Grace Abhayacharvina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishta Vividha Samstapakachara Vaishnava Siramani Patit Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhara Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Prima Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prima Purushottama Shri Sachinandan Shriman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaura Hari Mahavaranaya Avatar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Hari Nam Sankirtan Yaga Ki Jai Jugo Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihatmdanga Transnatal Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Radha Kun Syamakun Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrajabhim Vrindavan Mathurdam Ki Jai The Lordship Shri Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai Shri Shri Maya Purnavadvip Eka Chakradham Ki Jai Paramakaruna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottama Kitra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smaspodra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagwan Ki Jai Sri Ram Lakshman Bhakti Hanuman Ji Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vikna Vinashana Kari Shingare Bhagwan Ki Jai Jaganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulas Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Mati Radharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Nitai Gauri Pramanandi All glory to the Son of the bodies. All glory to the Son of the bodies. All glory to the Son of the bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Oh, please come.
Namo Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadadayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Hito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Hito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yeto yeto yami tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hrudaye Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hrudaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye. Madim Sharanam Prapadye. Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Narsinghadev. Jayo Narsinghadev. Jayo Narsinghadev. Jayo Narsinghadev. Narsinghadev. Jayo Narsinghadev. Jayo Narsinghadev. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev. 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय। भक्ति शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ये अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो यही अभिलाषी जे तोमार शरण लोय तार वंश पूर्ण होय तार वंश पूर्ण होय कृपा करी करो तारे वृंदावनवासी कृपा करी को तारे वृंदावनवासी मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वार नयने हेरिबो सदा जुगल रूपरासी एई निवेदन दारो सखीरानुगत करो एई निवेदन दारो सखीरानुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे कोई जन मोर होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नबासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नबासी यानी कानी च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणापदे च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणापदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणापदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणापदे पदे कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्राणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणापदे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Vrinda Devi 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 Jaya Vrinda Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishnakam Ki. Jai. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Vishe Namaha. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of the conditional life of beautiful girl in death. This Sankirtan moment is a primary benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moment. It is the light of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Gauri. And these transcendental names have refers to your transcendental energies. There is no even hard and fast rule which channel these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to approach by holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant your name, Lord, and have a state of mind. Take oneself lower than the strongest tree, which be more tolerant than the tree. Devoid of all sense of false prestige, I should be ready to offer respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant your name to the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to represent God, no desire to any woman, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause and because it serves the birth of the birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet some rather have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please bring me out from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, only my eyes will be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I'm chanting holy name. Only my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on end with the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm lost in a moment for like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel overtaken to the world with absence.
I don't know one but Krishna is my Lord.
And he showed me answer, some is rock face and breast, or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything. It's always my worship for the Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shastapam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in her chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blasphemy the Lord is to dedicate your lives or propagate the holy name of the Lord. 2.
Consider the names of demigods.
Shiva,
Equal to independent names of Lord Vishnu. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature, or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord, mental duties and the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities of karma ganda, to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name, to not have complete faith in chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakuri ki jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vani Vicharani Nirvisesa Srinivadi Paskati Dasatani. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmad Yasya Yato Nivayat Itaratas Charteswa Vigyaswarat. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Buyanti Yatsuryaha Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Masha Damna Srina Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Mahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in a transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma projita kaitravotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayon bhuvanam Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va Purer Ishvaraha Sadya Hridaya Varudyate Tra Krite Behi Susursabis Takshanam. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scriptures? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror kalitam phalam sukumukad amrita dravya samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur aho raskabu vibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridyantakstohi Bhadrani Vidunati Srihit Satam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies a devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nastaprayesu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajas tamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye cheta ita aranavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarvasamsaya siyante jasya karmani jista evat manishware. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagam, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Shishya Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. For my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food. Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava. And their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. I offer my most humble obeisance at the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. It is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Lakshavrite Susurabhira Vipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Granantam Aravinda Dalaytaksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Goti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Jibangalalitam Niyata Prakasam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalandriya Vrittimanti Angan Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyastiyat Prapadasimya Vichintyatatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitam Jagadanta Kotin Yaschaktirasti Jagadanda Chayaya Danta Dantarasti Paramana andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Sampraptya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, verse number 29 and 30, 31 and 32. Nabasota Vikurvanad Abut Sparsa Guno Nila Paranvayach Chabdavamscha Prana Oja Sahobalam Vayor Api Vikurvana Kala Karma Sambhavata Udapadyata Tejovai Udapadyata Tejovai. I'm sorry, Rupa Vat Sparsa Sabdavad Tejasastu Vikurvana Asit Ambo Rasatmakam Rupavat Sparsavach Chambo Goshavachcha Paranvayat Visesastu Vikurvana Amba Sugandavam Abut Paranvayad Rasa Sparsa Sabda Rupa Gunanvitaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water, full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch and is also full of sound. And water, being transformed from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous, and, as previously, becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form respectively. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth as so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound and from touch to form, taste, and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another, but the original cause is the Lord Himself in plenary portion, as Maha Vishnu lying in the causal ocean of the Mahat Tattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all causes, and this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8 as follows. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samanvitaha. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser degree. In the sky, there is sound only, whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all the above-mentioned qualities and in extra development of odor also. I'm sorry. Therefore, on earth, there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body take place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from special derangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order, so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can command over death and quit the body at the right moment, when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The bhakti yogi, however, surpasses all the yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Because the sky is transformed, air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life. Sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water, full of juices and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch, and is also full of sound. And water, being transformed from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous, and, as previously, becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is now continuing, progressively explaining the process of creation of the material world. And it's actually very complicated because it goes from subtle to gross. And that is a very complicated process. And we can get an idea of it by this description. And these 5 elements, in other words, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, and earth, it all begins by sound vibration. And sound vibration produces space. And then there is this wind, and then there's a progression. So the air or wind is extremely important, because if we can't breathe, we die very quickly. In a matter of 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, we're dead. So this air, which we have to breathe all the time. Now, people die, they get corona, and then their whole sinus and throat becomes swollen, and they can't breathe, and they die. So this is the problem of the human body, that it's actually very precarious, and it could end at any moment by a blood clot, by which air does not, or oxygen does not go to the brain. Like sometimes people get a severe bruise, a black and blue bruise, and it can produce a blood clot, which sort of travels through the bloodstream and comes to the heart and blocks the air or oxygen getting into the heart. You die. And or if the blood clot goes to the brain, it blocks oxygen going to the brain, you have a stroke. So the circulation of air in the body is extremely important for maintaining health, because the air contains oxygen, and oxygen is the number one need of the body. Without that, you die very quickly. You can kill someone in a matter of minutes by choking them. So, not that we should do that, but so, and then on top of all that, it says diseases of the body take place due to the derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Yeah, so whenever there's swelling, like let's say you eat too much, your stomach swells, right? And then because you have bad digestion, your intestines swell with gas. So then you're burping and you're passing bad air, and then you feel your heart is sort of feels some pain because there's swelling inside of the body due to the gas, due to too much accumulation of stool in the intestines, or due to not being able to urinate properly, so that things get swollen, and then finally the air does, or the oxygen does not go through the bloodstream because there's some blockage, and you can have a stroke. You can get cancer. Cancer is also caused by lack of oxygen into some part of the body, and lack of oxygen to the heart. You have a heart attack. Lack of oxygen to the brain. You have a stroke. And so the yogis, they try and keep all the passages of the body functioning properly so that the air circulates and oxygen circulates. And several miraculous things can happen. One is that they always are healthy, and two is that they can prolong their life, and three is they can control when they die. So this circulation of air is extremely, or oxygen is extremely important for the health and well-being of a person. Therefore, this overeating, constipation, it causes a lot of distress. And most diseases are caused by, intestinal or digestive problems, and then that leads to some kind of swelling, and eventually, it stops the natural flow of oxygen through the blood, and then you get sick. And so many things happen. So, but it says, Bhakti Yoga surpasses all the yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he's promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. So, now we see the unique position of Bhakti Yoga. It's superior even to Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga, which are the three main categories of yoga, and then they have subcategories also. But those are the main ones. There's Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So this is further explained in the second chapter, the second canto, first chapter, 11th verse. Let's look at that because it's a very important verse. before the 11th verse, I want to read the 10th verse also, because this is crucial to understand the process of devotional service. And the 10th, 2:110 says, that very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna, one who gives full attention and respect to hearing. Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So this is the basis of Bhakti Yoga, this hearing and repeating, or what's called said in another way also. Let me see where it says that. Yeah, it's called recitation and hearing, or hearing and recitation. So, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, Srimad Bhagavatam is recognized Vedic wisdom. Wisdom means realized knowledge. Not only you have knowledge theoretically, but you've realized it. You know how to apply that knowledge in all different situations. And the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Panta. Well, it's a descending process, basically. Or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through bona fide disciplic succession. For advancement of material knowledge, there's a need for personal ability and researching aptitude. But in the case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of the spiritual master. So there's the difference between mundane knowledge and spiritual knowledge. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifest before the student of spiritual science. And it says automatically manifest, right? It's not a mechanical thing at that point. It's some other process is taking place. And that is explained in Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Tesam satatiyuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So this is the 10th chapter. It's one of the nutshell verses. It's verse number 10 or 9. Okay, yeah. And it says that 9? No, it's 10. It says that for one who is always engaged in my devotional service and in loving ecstasy, devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So this is different than academic knowledge. And this whole system of receiving knowledge is different than what they're teaching in schools and so forth. So it says, the spiritual masters must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifest before the student of spiritual science. So there's an example of this. There's Dhruva Maharaj. He's a little kid. He's like 5 or 6 years old, right? He's determined to surpass his father, who insulted him, and he has this Kshatriya nature. So he's got to surpass his father, right? So, and his mother tells him, well, the only person that can help you, I can't help you. The only person that can help you is Krishna. So he said, well, where can I find Krishna? He said, well, it's said that he may be in the forest because there are great saints in the forest. So the boy is a Kshatriya, has a Kshatriya nature. So he leaves his mom and walks into the forest by himself. He doesn't even know where he's going. But he's just determined to find this Krishna, because she says he's the only person that can help him. And in the forest, he meets Narada Muni, right? Because that's where saints are, she said. You know? And Narada Muni, when he hears what Dhruva Maharaj is trying to do, he said, look, you're just a little kid, go back home to your mom. He said, no, I'm not going back home to my mom. I want to see Krishna. So, so then Narada Muni realizes how determined he is. So he said, well, if you want to see Krishna, then you have to do this and that. In other words, basically, he has to stand on one foot and begin to meditate. And only eat once a day. And then that's the first month. And the second month, he has to only eat, I think what it was, like leaves, things like that. You know. And then the third month, he has to give up eating and control his breath. And in the fourth month, he has to give up breathing. so you have to control the breath. And the fifth month, something else, and so forth. I might not have the exact sequence. And then Krishna appears in front as Lord Vishnu. He says, and touches him with his conch shell on the head, and immediately he becomes illuminated with knowledge by the touch of the Lord. And the Lord, asked him, "What do you want?" And he said, "Well, I was looking for pieces of glass, but now I've found a diamond. So I don't want what I wanted before. I'm just satisfied now, just seeing you." But the Lord gives him what he actually wanted. He wanted to be more prominent than his father. So he becomes more prominent than his father. A greater king with a greater kingdom, like the whole universe. And so it's an amazing story of this little boy who is determined to see Krishna and who takes complete instructions from his guru, Narada Muni, and actually sees Krishna in a few months. Right? Due to his determination and his willingness, because as a Kshatriya is willing to undergo severe conditions, not afraid of it. So the process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feats whereby the spiritual master acts as a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple as if surcharging him with an electrical current. Well, this is referring to the history of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. If you read the history of Ramakrishna, you'll see at one point he decided to make Vivekananda his most important disciple, and he sort of touches him, and then Ramakrishna faints, and then Vivekananda becomes electrified with knowledge. This is a nonsense, process. That's not the process of receiving knowledge. It's not some magical feat. So then what does Prabhupada say? He said, the bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and service attitude. Now, what does he mean when he says that? Not exactly intellectually. Well, if you go to school today, or if you follow, the curriculum or the pedagogical system of teaching, one of the fundamental principles of it is speculation. They invite kids to speculate. Did you know that? They actually invite kids to speculate and to make up theories, and then them try and experiment to see if their theory is right or wrong. So that's intellectually, that's why he says the teaching is not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries. Now this is a major point. A disciple learns by submissive inquiries. Well, the whole Vedic literature is questions and answers. Parikshit Maharaj is asking Sukadeva Goswami so many questions, and Sukadeva Goswami is answering them. And Arjuna is asking Krishna so many questions, and Krishna is answering them. But it's done submissively, submissive inquiries, and service attitude at the same time. Did they teach this in school? No. The whole school process is different than the Vedic process. And we have to understand these things. Otherwise, we're going to miss the boat ourselves also. Then it says, the idea is that both the spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. In this case, the spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, is ready to recite exactly what he has heard from his great fathers, Srila Vyasadeva. And the disciple, Maharaj Parikshit, is a great devotee of Lord Krishna. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that becoming a devotee of the Lord, but by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual. That's something they have to actually be convinced of, to become a sincere disciple. It's not that, well, I can hear something from Guru Dev, but I got to also study differential equations, and I got to study this thing, and I got to study that thing also to be a success. No. You don't even need those other things. All you need is to get the mercy of the spiritual master and masters and assimilate this knowledge by submissive questions and listening very attentively and repeating. And chanting Hare Krishna and following Krishna conscious life cycle. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual. This teaching is imparted by the Lord himself in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, in which it is clearly described that the Lord, Sri Krishna, is everything, and that to surrender unto him solely and wholly makes one the most perfectly pious man. Bahunam janmanamante gyanavam prapadyante vasudeva savamiti samahatma sadurlabha. Krishna is, as it says here, Krishna is everything, and that to surrender unto him solely and wholly, holy means not H-O-L-Y, but W-H-O-L-L-Y, meaning completely, complete surrender, makes one the most perfectly pious man. This unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. Wow, that's a huge statement. This unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. So now we see this is an exceptional thing to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam. It requires having absolute faith in Krishna. That's why we don't see too many real students of Srimad Bhagavatam. They have so many other things to hear and do, and they don't have the time to put into the Srimad Bhagavatam. You see? Because it's a matter of faith. It's a matter of faith. You have to have unflinching faith in Lord Krishna, and that prepares one to become a student of Srimad Bhagavatam, like Maharaj Parikshit. He had unflinching faith. Therefore he sat down, gave up doing everything else, and simply listened and asked questions. And one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a devotee like Sukadeva Goswami is sure to attain the salvation at the end. I mean, it's sure, it's guaranteed they're going back to Godhead. As Maharaj Parikshit did. That's what Maharaj Parikshit that he just heard from Sukadeva Goswami. The professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam and the pseudo, meaning false devotees, whose faith is based on 1 week's hearing. Prabhupada is so cutting here. Their faith is based on 1 week of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Saptaha, right? Whose faith is based on 1 week's hearing, are different from Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. Srila Vyasadeva explained Srimad Bhagavatam unto Sukadeva Goswami from the very beginning of the Janmad Asay verse, and so Sukadeva Goswami also explained it to the king. Lord Krishna is described as the Mahapurusha in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, in his devotional feature as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself in his devotional attitude and descended on earth to bestow special favors upon the fallen souls of this age of Kali. There are 2 verses particularly suitable to offer as prayers to this Mahapurusha feature of Lord Krishna, meaning to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what is this Mahapurusha feature of the Lord? That's the devotional form of Lord Krishna, who appears as Lord Chaitanya. And so there are these 2 prayers that are very specifically for the glorification of Lord Chaitanya. They're both in the 11th canto. It says, "My dear Lord," it's the 11th canto, 5th chapter, 33rd and 34th verse. "My dear Lord, you are the Mahapurusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I worship your lotus feet, which are the only eternal object of meditation. Those feet destroy the embarrassing conditions of material life and freely award the greatest desire of the soul, the attainment of pure love of Godhead. My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the shelter of all holy places and of all saintly authorities in the line of devotional service, and are honored by powerful demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. My Lord, you are so kind that you willingly protect all those who simply bow down to you with respect, and thus you mercifully relieve all the distress of your servants. In conclusion, my Lord, your lotus feet are actually the suitable boat for crossing over the ocean of birth and death, and therefore even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva seek shelter at your lotus feet." This is the glorification of Lord Chaitanya. And there's a huge purport. I'm not going to read that now. And then we go to the next verse, which says, it's 11.534, and it says, "O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet." Now, you know, feet, if you look at someone's feet, it's different than looking at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Now, sometimes feet that look nice, and sometimes they look really nasty. Right? But the Lord's lotus feet are full of mercy and transcendental experience. So, O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. You gave up the association of the goddess of fortune and all her opulence, which is most difficult to renounce and is hankered after by even the great demigods. So he's talking about Lord Chaitanya, who left his wife when he was only like 24 and took sannyas. Being the most faithful follower of the path of religion, you thus left for the forest in obedience to a Brahmana's curse. Out of sheer mercifulness, you chased after the fallen conditioned souls who are always in pursuit of the false enjoyment of illusion, and at the same time engaged in searching out your own desired object, Lord Shama Sundara. Now this, I'm going to read part of the purport. It says, according to the Vaishnava Acharyas, this important verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam is understood to describe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, and also Lord Sri Ramachandra. This verse appears within the discussion by the sage Karabhajana of the Yuga avatars, or the different incarnations of the personality of Godhead, who deliver the conditioned souls of each age. The prayers ending with the words Vande Mahapurusha Te Charanara Vindam are understood to glorify the incarnation of Lord Krishna in Kali Yuga, known as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived for 24 years in Navadvipa as a householder and enjoyed immense popularity among both scholars and ordinary persons. His Sankirtana movement was completely supported by the local government, even though it was Muslim. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the pleasure of marrying the goddess of fortune. No ordinary woman of the material world, no matter how gorgeous she may be, can in any way compare with the beautiful goddess of fortune. Everyone in the universe, including Lord Brahma, is searching after the goddess of fortune. Therefore, it is stated here, Surepsita. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna, appearing as a Brahmana, and therefore he is certainly Dharmistaha, or the most religious. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always Dharmistaha, whether he appears as a cowherd boy, a great king, or a Brahmana, because the Lord himself is the original source and personification of all religious principles. However, in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are very few political or economic activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as a great philosopher Brahmana, and thus he is certainly Dharmistaha. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the 17th chapter of the Adi Lila, it is described that a certain Brahmana, who was well known for being harsh and cursing others, could not enter the Kirtan hall where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing Kirtana because the door was locked. Being very agitated and breaking his Brahmana's thread, he cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the next day on the bank of the Ganges, saying, I shall now curse you, for your behavior has greatly aggrieved me. You shall be bereft of all material happiness. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt great jubilation within himself, since his mission was Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, to give up the illusion of material sense gratification and staunchly engage 24 hours a day in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took this curse as a blessing, and soon after the Lord took sannyasa. Thus it is stated in this verse that by the words of the Aryan, the Brahmana, Arya Vachasa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyasa, yad agad aranyam, and went traveling through the different forests of India on the way to Vrindavana and later South India. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted especially to preserve the prestige of the Brahmana class, and therefore he decided to keep the Brahmana's curse intact. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained the word Maya Mrigam as follows. Maya means one's so-called wife, children, and bank account, which keep one firmly bound up in the material bodily concept of life. The word Mrigam indicates mrigyati, or to search out. Thus, Maya Mrigam indicates the conditioned living entity who is always frantically searching for the latest up-to-minute sense gratification in the material bodily concept of society, friendship, and love. This is a very interesting point when it says, who is searching for the latest up-to-the-minute sense gratification. Well, one time, there was this crazy devotee. He's actually a very crazy guy, right? But you wouldn't be able to tell right away that he's crazy, right? So, so when it talks about latest up-to-the-minute sense gratification in the material bodily concept of society, friendship, and love. So this person he was married, and he decided to take up the latest up-to-the-minute sense gratification in the material body. So when he was engaging in some illicit activity with his wife, he decided to choke her because he had read somewhere that this increases the ecstasy of that act, right? He almost killed her. Right? It's just to show you how crazy. I mean, this guy's a devotee, he's an initiated devotee, he's a brahmana, right? But he got caught up by the latest up-to-the-minute sense gratification in the material bodily concept. This is complete nonsense. You understand? And this can happen to anyone, even a brahmana, even a Hare Krishna devotee. They can get caught up in this nonsense, seeking out the latest up-to-the-minute sense gratification in the bodily concept of life, of society, friendship, and love. Anva Dava indicates that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always visibly going here and there, searching after the fallen conditioned souls. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes embrace the conditioned souls on the pretext of religious friendship or ecstasy. But actually, the Lord was touching the bodies of the conditioned souls to pull them out of the ocean of material existence and hurl them into the ocean of ecstatic love of Godhead. Thus, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the most merciful and munificent incarnation of the Lord, whose mercy surpassed the bounds of mundane discrimination in the matter of caste, color, and creed. The word Dayitaya can be explained as follows. The Sanskrit word daya means mercy. Thus, by grammatical derivation, the word used in this verse, Dayitaya, indicates that because of being the most merciful, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was busily engaged in rescuing the fallen conditioned souls who are completely distracted and bewildered by the external illusory energy of the Lord. The quality of being the most merciful is part and parcel of the character of the Mahapurusha, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this verse also describes the incarnation of Lord Krishna himself in his original blackish form. Thus the words Surepsita Raja Lakshmin indicate Sri Mathura Sampatim, or the opulence of Mathura. Mathura is described in Vedic literature as the reservoir of all opulence because of the touch of the Lord's lotus feet in that precinct. But Krishna, although taking birth in the opulent city of Mathura, transferred himself to the forest village of Vrindavana. In this case, the word Aryavachasa indicates the order of Lord Krishna's original parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.3.22 to 29, both Vasudeva and Devaki expressed their fear at the threat of Kamsa, who had already killed all of Krishna's elder brothers. The words Aryavachasa thus indicates that with great love they requested Krishna to kindly make some arrangement to avoid Kamsa, and Krishna, to obey their order, transferred himself to the forest village of Vrindavana. In this context, the words Maya Mrigam indicate the special exalted relationship between Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. Maya also indicates the internal potency of Krishna, Yogamaya. The original form of Krishna's internal potency is Srimati Radharani. Due to the inconceivable love of Srimati Radharani, Lord Krishna becomes easily controlled by her. Thus, Mrigam, or animal, in this case indicates Krida Mrigam, or a toy animal, just as a beautiful young girl may play with so many dolls or stuffed animals. Similarly, Lord Krishna becomes just like a doll in the hands of the most beautiful young girl, Srimati Radharani. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Srimati Radharani performed innumerable types of worship in order to bind Krishna more and more to her, because Srimati Radharani cannot live without Krishna. Thus, due to Srimati Radharani's aradhana, or worship, Krishna can never leave Vrindavana. He runs here and there in Vrindavana, protecting the cows, playing with his friends, and engaging in countless intrigues of love with Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Thus the word Amvadavat indicates Krishna's boyish activities, his running through the transcendental land of Vrindavana, tightly under the control of the love of Srimati Radharani. So this purport continues. But you see, there's this element of undeniable transcendental ecstasy that the devotee can experience by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam on a regular basis every day, and Bhagavad Gita, and asking questions and churning the ocean of transcendental love of Krishna by hearing more and more about Krishna's unparalleled activities and pastimes, so that the mind becomes completely seized by this ecstasy, and one is not interested in anything else. Okay, one can still function in the material world. How do we know that? Well, we know that there are men who are thinking day and night about sex, but yet they function in the material world. You know, they're CEOs, or they're teachers, or they're artists or something. But what's going on inside mechanism is sense gratification, right? But yet they still function, right? So if that's possible, then you can understand that it's possible that this transcendental ecstasy is going on in the mind of the devotee day and night, but still they can function in the material world. And Lord Chaitanya functioned also in this material world, running around, in a sense, saving the most fallen souls. He's Patita Pavana. See? So this transcendental ecstasy of hearing and assimilating, Krishna's pastimes and meditating on them all the time, leads one to the undeniable urge to help other people become Krishna conscious. This is what the actual Krishna consciousness movement is about. You know. So then I have to stop now, but then we come to second canto, chapter 1, verse number 11, which says, Etan nividyamananam ichitam akuto bayam yoginam nipanirnitam harir namana kirtanam. O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from all material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. So this constant chanting of the holy name of Krishna and remembering Krishna's pastimes and thinking about Krishna, this is demonstrated by one's desire to preach Krishna consciousness to others, and by this constant chanting and associating with the Lord through the holy name and avoiding the 10 offenses against the holy name, one attains complete success in the human form of life, and they don't even want to go back to Godhead. See, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundram. They're not self-satisfied. They're always eager to do more and more service. A self-satisfied person would sit down anywhere and just enjoy internally their satisfaction. But it says clearly that the devotee is not self-satisfied. He cannot be self-satisfied because he always wants to serve Krishna more and more. This is the difference between jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas. And that's why it says the bhakta surpasses the jnani, the yogi, and the karma yogi. So we'll discuss this some more. The position of a pure devotee is absolutely unique and cannot be compared to anything else. And when we begin to understand that, then we understand more, the position of Srila Prabhupada as a Maha devotee is a greatest devotee, unparalleled on the level of the greatest devotees in the history of the world, because he actually was dedicated to spreading Krishna consciousness and making it greater and greater and encompassing the whole world. Therefore, he went around the world 14 times at his advanced age and spread this movement everywhere. So we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Observation.
Yeah.
In Bhagavatam it says that the sound produced along with the sky.
Yeah.
Actually, in modern science, till about 2015, they used to say that the sound only travels through air. In order for the sound to waves to touch. But in 2015, they actually come up with some techniques wherein they were able to identify that the sound actually travels through the sky or the space.
Oh, it's not traveling through the air.
The sound travels through the air is what we know, because but the sound even travels through the space.
Where there's no air?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
We're not sure about that. We're not sure about that because there are winds in space.
Yeah. Now they are coming to that conclusion that a sound now can travel through the space, through the gravitational waves and other waves.
Or the electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves carry sound with them.
But I think when we talk about the spiritual sound,
Okay.
that created in the Bhagavatam is perfect because it's the science that is trying to catch up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Haribol.
Sky. Sky is the sound. Sky is the sound. Yeah?
Sound expands the sky. First there's sound. Then sky is produced. Sky doesn't exist before sound.
I think the sky is always constituting the sound.
Well, okay, let's read what it said exactly here. It says, because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound.
Means the air is come after the sky.
Well, okay, but all right, let's see what it says in the purport.
Actually, the previous verse that has been
Yeah. Previous verse says, from the darkness of false ego, the first of the five elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its subtle form is the quality of sound. Now, but when the sound vibration comes first, and then the sky is produced. And okay, let's see where it says that. You have to go to the Brahma Samhita.
When you're reading, that's from the materialistic scientist thing.
So this was
It's a Shastra.
the 25th,
The one you just read.
the one Maharaj just said is.
No, you said something was.
Oh yeah, I'm just correlating, saying that the material scientists are only are figuring out now that the sound can travel even through the space. But actually Bhagavatam says that that's how it was always.
Okay, it is said that first the Tan mantra sound is created, and then the sky. It's right here. You can read it.
Yeah. No, I'm listening.
So that's what I said. First there's sound. Then the sky is expanded because of the sound. It's not, it's talking about first the Tan mantra sound is created, and then the sky.
Right.
And in this verse it is confirmed that actually it is so. But sound is the subtle form of the sky.
The sound from the sky, yeah. There's a connection between sky and the sound.
No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. First, there's the sound.
Right.
Sky is expanded because of sound.
Yeah.
It
that's
doesn't
correct.
exist. It doesn't exist before the sound.
That's correct. So that's what I said. I kind of read it somewhere also. I had two times book I mentioned. The sky is represented the sound. So in that sense, so the sky represented the sound, and out of the five subtle elements, right? The subtle elements. So the sky represents the sound.
Okay.
But these materialistic people, they change.